Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Rabbi.
Good morning.
We're learning Mishna Nedarim, and being that yesterday, because of the snow, we did have a class, but most of the attendees were not here, so we will quickly go through Mishnah Vav again and do Mishnah Vav in Zion. So Mishnah Vav, Hanoidim in Abasar, a person makes a neder from basar. Basar means meat, but that's his word. He says the neder is from basar. Mutter b'reitiv b'kipa. He'd be allowed to eat from the gravy. Reitiv is loose gravy. Kipa is congealed gravy. And the point is that when a person says basar, they mean actual meat and not what has the flavor of meat. Gravy is not meat. It has the flavor of meat. And the point is when a person says basar, basar means the actual meat. That's the Tanakama, the first opinion. Rabbi Yehuda Oyser. Rabbi Yehuda forbids. He says that when a person says basar, they don't just mean the meat, they mean the meat and anything with the flavor of meat. Amar Rabbi Yehuda said, Masa v'asra alai Rabbi Tarfon beitzim shenispashlu imay. There was a story where I had such a vow, such a neder from basar, and Rabbi Tarfon forbade me to eat eggs cooked with meat. So why the eggs not meat? So you see, it's because the eggs got the flavor of the meat. So you see that when a person makes a neder from basar, from meat, it includes even things that have the flavor of meat. Amrulai v'chein adavar. So the other sages said to him, v'chein adavar. It's so. Rabbi Tarfon definitely went ahead and he forbade those eggs to you. But Amasai, when is that? Bisman shayoymar basar ze alai. That is when the person who made the neder said, this meat is forbidden on me. He didn't make a general neder about meat. It was on a specific piece of meat that he said it should be forbidden. And when a person does that, when they speak about a specific piece of meat, then they mean to say that this piece of meat should be like a non-kosher piece of meat, which we know a non-kosher piece of meat, if it gets mixed with kosher pieces of food, and there is enough in the non-kosher meat to give flavor to the other foods, they become forbidden. The same thing is going to be here. When a person makes a neder about basar, he means to say it should be treated just like a piece of non-kosher meat for him. And therefore, if a man makes a vow from something specific, and then he gets mixed up with something else, something permissible, if there is enough of the neder food to give flavor to the rest of the other food, then the other foods are forbidden. Now the rule is, if the neder forbidden, the rule here and the rule general is, if the neder forbidden food is more than a 60th as large as the permitted food, even the permitted food becomes prohibited, because it is assumed to have absorbed the flavor of the forbidden food. That's the point. If you have something, if the forbidden food in ratio is more than 60 times 60 to 1, it's more than 60 to 1 of the permitted against the forbidden, meaning the forbidden is more than a 60th of the mixture with the permitted food, then we say the forbidden food makes the permitted food forbidden because it gives flavor. Only when you have 60 times more, then we say it's batal. Then we say the flavor, the forbidden food flavor is nullified. So in this case, the Mishnah is saying, if you just generally say meat, you mean just the meat itself and nothing more. However, if you say this meat, then this meat means you want to treat this meat like a non-kosher piece of meat. And if a non-kosher piece of meat gets mixed into permissible food, it forbids it if it gets flavor. And the same thing here. If you specified a piece of meat that you want it to be forbidden by a neder, and that therefore now you're treating it, you mean to treat it, when a person does that, he means that it should be treated like a non-kosher piece of meat, then we say if it gets mixed in permissible food and it gives flavor, the permissible food will be usher, and that's why Reb Tarfon said the eggs that were cooked with the meat were forbidden. Okay, Mishnah Zion, Mishnah 7, is pretty much going to be a repeat of the previous Mishnah. But it's going to be following the opinion of the Tanakama, of those who argue on Rabbi Yehuda. Hanoidim and ayayin. If a person makes a vow from wine, mutter betapshel sheyosh beitam yayin. You can still partake from a food that has the taste of wine. Why? Because when a person says wine, they mean actual wine, not something that has the flavor of wine. And now again, that's the Tanakama. That's the first opinion in the Mishnah that argued Rabbi Yehuda. Amar kainam yayin zesh enitayim. But if let's say he says, like a carbon, this wine I'm not going to taste. He specified which wine he's not going to, this bottle of wine that he's not going to drink from it. The naf ala tabshel, and then that wine falls into a cooked food. Im yesh tam. If the ratio of the forbidden food to permitted food is that there's enough forbidden food to give the permissible to the permitted food taste, flavor, you can the flavor of the wine is there. Hareza usher, then the other food that has the wine mixed into it is going to be forbidden. Because since he said this wine, then you treat it like non-kosher wine for this person, and whatever gives flavor to will be forbidden. Next, hanoidim and anavim. If a person makes a vow from grapes, mutabayayin, he's allowed to drink the wine. Grapes means grapes. Grapes doesn't mean wine. Minazesim, if he made a vow, a neder from olives, not going to eat olives, mutabashemen, he's allowed to partake of olive oil. Because olives means olives. When people make a neder, that's what it means, not the olive oil. Omar kainam zesav anavim elu shenitayim. But if a person were to say, like a carbon, these grapes or these olives I'm not going to taste, so a specific grapes or olives that he said should be forbidden, then he's forbidden in them and whatever comes out of them. Because once again, he specifies which grapes or which olives. That means he treats it like a non-kosher food or a non-kosher fruit. The juice that comes out of a non-kosher fruit, like arla, is forbidden to partake from. And therefore, when the person makes his vow and he says, these olives, these grapes, he wants it to be treated regarding him with the neder like a non-kosher fruit. And therefore, just a non-kosher fruit, the juice is forbidden. The fruit and the juice are forbidden. So too in this case, by the neder, the juice and the fruit would be forbidden. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi.